25 cheap winter meals our grandparents ate to survive. Do you remember when families gathered around the dinner table for simple, hearty meals that didn't cost a fortune? Before convenience foods and takeout, our grandparents knew how to stretch a dollar and fill hungry bellies through the coldest months. Today, we're exploring 25 winter meals that kept families fed when money was tight and creativity was essential. Let's start with potato soup. This wasn't the loaded baked potato soup you find in restaurants today. Our grandparents made it with just onions, potatoes, and milk, maybe a little butter if they had it. A 5-pound bag of potatoes cost about 15 cents in the 1940s, equivalent to about $2 today. That bag could make enough soup to feed a family of 6 for 3 days. Mothers would simmer diced potatoes and onions in water until soft, then add milk or cream if available, seasoning with salt and pepper. Some families added a ham bone for flavor when they had one. The soup thickened naturally from the potato starch, creating a creamy, filling meal that cost pennies per bowl. During the Depression, this was often the only hot meal of the day. Today's gourmet potato soups with bacon and cheese would have seemed impossibly luxurious to families who made this simple version work night after night. Ham hock, bean soup. A single smoked ham hock could transform a pot of dried beans into a feast that lasted for days. In the 1930s and 40s, ham hocks sold for about 5 cents each, while a pound of navy beans cost 8 cents. That 15-cent investment produced enough soup to feed a family for nearly a week. The hock would simmer all day with soaked beans, releasing its smoky flavor and bits of meat into the broth. Mothers added whatever vegetables they had, carrots, celery, onions, stretching the pot even further. The leftover bone got picked clean, with every morsel of meat returning to the pot. Families ate this with day-old bread or crackers, soaking up every drop of the rich broth. The soup improved with age, getting thicker and more flavorful each day. Many families lived on this during lean winter months when work was scarce. Modern ham and bean soup often uses expensive ham steaks, but our grandparents knew the humble hock delivered more flavor for far less money. Split pea soup. Dried split peas were a miracle ingredient for cash-strapped families, costing just pennies per pound and packed with protein. The soup required nothing fancy, just dried peas, an onion, maybe a carrot, and water. If lucky, families added a ham bone or bacon ends from the butcher, often given away free. The peas broke down during long, slow cooking on the back of the wood stove, creating a thick, stick-to-your-rib soup that filled empty stomachs. In the 1950s, a pound of split peas cost about 12 cents and could make soup for 8 people. Mothers would start it in the morning, letting it simmer all day while they worked. The aroma filled the house, promising a hot meal when father returned from work. Some families lived on split pea soup for weeks during unemployment or strikes. The soup could be thinned with water to stretch further or thickened with leftover mashed potatoes. Today's split pea soup often includes expensive ham, but the original poverty version proved you could eat well on almost nothing. Cabbage and noodles. Known as haluski in Eastern European communities, this simple dish became a Depression-era staple across America. A head of cabbage cost about 3 cents in the 1930s. Onions were 2 cents per pound, and egg noodles could be made at home with just flour and eggs. Mothers would slice cabbage thin and fry it slowly with onions in whatever fat they had, butter, lard, or bacon drippings. The cabbage caramelized and sweetened as it cooked down. Meanwhile, homemade noodles boiled in salted water, then got tossed with the golden cabbage mixture. The total cost to feed 6 people was under 20 cents. Polish, Slovak, and Hungarian immigrants brought this recipe to mining and steel towns, where it spread to other struggling families. The dish could be enhanced with bits of bacon or kielbasa when available, but tasted satisfying even plain. Some families ate this 3 or 4 nights a week during hard times. the leftovers fried up crispy for breakfast. Today's trendy restaurants serve similar dishes for $15, but our grandparents knew this humble combination could sustain a family through the toughest winters. American goulash. This had nothing to do with authentic Hungarian goulash, but became a household staple across America during lean times. Ground beef, when families could afford it, got stretched with elbow macaroni and canned tomatoes into a one-pot meal that fed many. In the 1940s, a pound of ground beef cost about 25 cents, a box of macaroni was 10 cents, and canned tomatoes were 8 cents. Under 50 cents total to feed a family of 6. Mothers browned the beef with onions, added tomatoes and water, then stirred in cooked macaroni. Some added a can of corn or green beans to stretch it further. The dish reheated beautifully, often tasting better the second day. Families without meat made mock goulash, using just macaroni, tomatoes, and onions. During rationing in World War II, this became a go-to meal when meat was scarce. Church suppers and school cafeterias adopted the recipe to feed crowds cheaply. The modern hamburger helper follows the same principle, but costs far more than the homemade version our grandparents perfected. That simple skillet of goulash represented comfort and security during uncertain times. Tuna noodle casserole. Before it became a suburban cliché, tuna noodle casserole was serious survival food for struggling families. A can of tuna cost 15 cents in the 1950s, egg noodles were 12 cents, and a can of mushroom soup was 10 cents. Mixed with frozen peas and topped with crushed crackers, this 35-cent investment fed 6 people generously. The casserole could bake while Mother attended to other chores, emerging hot and bubbling from the oven just as Father arrived home. Churches published hundreds of variations in community cookbooks, each family adapting based on what they had. Some used canned salmon or mackerel instead of tuna. Others added hard-boiled eggs for extra protein. The cream of mushroom soup, introduced by Campbell's in 1934, became the magical binder that held countless Depression-era casseroles together. Leftovers could be reheated for days or eaten cold for lunch. The dish provided complete nutrition, protein, vegetables, and starch in one affordable pan. Modern food snobs might mock it, but this casserole kept millions of American families fed through economic hardship and remains comfort food for many. Cottage pie. Americans called it shepherd's pie, though traditionally that used lamb, which few could afford. This cottage pie used whatever ground meat was cheapest, usually beef trimmings the butcher ground fresh. A pound of meat mixed with diced vegetables and gravy got stretched under a blanket of mashed potatoes to feed 8 people. In the 1940s, the total cost was under 40 cents. Mothers would brown the meat with onions, add whatever root vegetables they had stored, carrots, turnips, parsnips, and create gravy from flour and beef drippings. The mixture went into a baking dish topped with mashed potatoes made from the 5-pound bags that cost 15 cents. Some families added cheese to the potato topping when they had it. The pie could incorporate any leftover vegetables or gravy, making it perfect for using up odds and ends. During rationing, families made meatless versions using mushrooms or lentils. The dish provided warmth and satisfaction on the coldest nights, with leftovers that could be sliced and fried for breakfast. Today's gastropub versions cost $20, but the original stretched a pound of meat to feed a crowd. Chicken and dumplings. One old hen, past her laying prime and tough as leather, could become a feast with the right technique. These birds sold cheap at the market, sometimes just 20 cents in the 1930s. Simmered slowly for hours, that tough bird released rich flavor and eventually tender meat into the broth. The real magic came with the dumplings, just flour, salt, and water, or milk, rolled thin and cut into strips. Dropped into the simmering broth, they cooked into filling clouds that absorbed the chicken flavor. A single chicken could make enough to feed a family for 3 days. First night was chicken and dumplings. Second was soup with the leftover broth. Third was chicken salad from the picked meat. Farm families knew exactly when a hen stopped laying and became Sunday dinner. City folks bought from live poultry markets, choosing the oldest, cheapest birds. The recipe varied by region. Southern dumplings were flat strips. Northern ones were round, balls. Either way, this dish transformed a tough bird into comfort. Modern rotisserie chickens are tender, but lack the deep flavor our grandparents coaxed from those old hens. Lentil stew. Before lentils became trendy health food, they were poverty rations that kept families alive. A pound of dried lentils cost about 8 cents in the 1940s and provided more protein than meat at a fraction of the price. Unlike other dried legumes, lentils needed no soaking and cooked in under an hour. Mothers would saute onions and carrots in whatever fat they had, add lentils and water, and simmer until tender. A bay leaf and some pepper were the only seasonings needed. The stew thickened naturally as the lentils broke down, creating a hearty, satisfying meal. Some families added potatoes or cabbage to stretch it further. A bit of vinegar at the end brightened the earthy flavors. The stew improved with age and reheated beautifully for days. During the Depression, social workers taught immigrant families to cook lentils as affordable nutrition. Catholic families relied on lentil stew during Lenten fasting. The protein-rich stew could sustain hard physical labor without meat. Today's Mediterranean restaurants charge premium prices for lentil dishes our grandparents ate from necessity. That humble pot of lentils meant survival when meat was an impossible luxury. Soup beans with cornbread. In Appalachia and the South, soup beans meant pinto beans, slow-cooked with a bit of salt pork, served alongside hot cornbread. The combination provided complete protein for families who couldn't afford meat. A pound of dried pintos cost about 10 cents in the 1950s. Salt pork was 15 cents, and cornmeal was 5 cents per pound. That 30-cent investment fed a family for 2 days. The beans soaked overnight, then simmered all day with the salt pork, creating rich pot liquor that was as important as the beans themselves. Meanwhile, cornbread baked in a cast-iron skillet, just cornmeal, buttermilk, egg, and a little fat. The hot cornbread got crumbled into bowls of beans and liquor, soaking up every drop. Mountain families lived on this combination through winter months when work was scarce. Coal miners' wives kept pots of beans ready for husbands returning from the mines. The leftover beans got mashed and fried for breakfast. This simple meal represented security and tradition passed down through generations. Fancy restaurants now serve heritage beans for high prices, but the original was about survival, not trends. Stuffed cabbage rolls. Every Eastern European family had their version: Polish golubki, Hungarian toltot kaposta, Jewish holishkis, but they all followed the same thrifty principle. Cabbage leaves wrapped around a filling of rice and just a little meat, simmered in tomato sauce, could stretch a half-pound of ground beef to feed 8 people. In the 1940s, cabbage cost 3 cents per pound, rice was 12 cents per pound, and a half-pound of meat was 13 cents. The whole pot cost under 40 cents. Mothers would blanch cabbage leaves until pliable, mix cooked rice with meat and onions, then roll the mixture in the leaves. The rolls simmered slowly in tomato sauce made from canned tomatoes or tomato paste. Some families used all rice when meat was unavailable. The sauce could be sweet and sour with vinegar and sugar, or simple tomato. Leftovers tasted even better the next day. Making cabbage rolls was a family affair. Children helped remove leaves while grandmothers supervised the rolling. These labor-intensive dishes showed love through effort when money couldn't buy fancy ingredients. Modern convenience has lost this tradition of turning humble ingredients into feast through patience and skill. Porcupine meatballs. These got their name from the rice that stuck out like quills after cooking, but the real appeal was making 1 pound of ground beef feed 6 people. The rice wasn't just filler, it absorbed the meat flavors while adding substance. In the 1950s, ground beef cost 30 cents per pound, rice was 12 cents per pound, and canned tomato soup was 10 cents. For under 60 cents, families got a complete meal. Mothers mixed raw rice directly into the ground beef with onions and seasonings, formed large meatballs, then simmered them in diluted tomato soup. The rice cooked inside the meatballs, expanding and creating the signature porcupine appearance. The tomato soup became a rich gravy that could be served over mashed potatoes or more rice. Some families added bell peppers or celery to the sauce. The dish required just 1 pot and minimal attention while cooking. Kids loved the funny name and appearance, making it easier to serve when money was tight. School cafeterias adopted the recipe to stretch meat budgets. Today's meatballs use expensive ingredients like veal and pork, but porcupine meatballs proved that creativity could make simple ingredients special. Liver and onions. Before it became something people joke about hating, liver was serious nutrition for families needing iron and protein. Beef liver cost about 15 cents per pound in the 1940s when ground beef was 25 cents. That made it one of the cheapest proteins available. Properly cooked, liver was tender and flavorful, not the tough, bitter memory many have. Mothers soaked liver in milk to mellow its flavor, then dredged in flour and quickly seared. Onions caramelized slowly in the same pan, creating a sweet contrast to the mineral-rich liver. Served with mashed potatoes and gravy made from the pan drippings, it was a complete meal for under 30 cents. Doctors recommended liver for anemic children and pregnant women. During the war, when better cuts went to troops, families relied on organ meats. Jewish families made chopped liver, stretching it further with hard-boiled eggs and onions. Italian families added liver to pasta sauces. The key was not overcooking. Liver turned tough and bitter when cooked too long. Modern nutrition supplements replaced liver's role, but our grandparents knew this affordable protein could restore health and energy during hard times. Neckbone or oxtail stew. The cuts nobody wanted became treasure in skilled hands. Neckbones and oxtails were often free or nearly free from butchers who couldn't sell them to affluent customers. These tough, bony cuts required long, slow cooking, but rewarded patience with incredibly rich flavor. In the 1930s, neckbones were given away or sold for 2 cents per pound. Oxtails weren't much more. Mothers would brown the bones, then simmer them all day with root vegetables. The collagen from the bones created a silky, nourishing broth. The meat, finally tender after hours of cooking, fell off the bones. 1 pot could feed a family for days, first as stew, then as soup, with added water and vegetables. The bones got saved for a second cooking, extracting every bit of nutrition. African-American families in the South perfected neckbone cooking, creating soul food classics. Caribbean immigrants brought oxtail traditions that spread through urban neighborhoods. These dishes required time, but little money, perfect for families where someone was home to tend the pot. Today's trendy restaurants charge premium prices for these nose-to-tail cuts our grandparents got for free. Hobo stew. The name said it all. This was whatever you had, thrown together and made edible through seasoning and hope. During the Depression, hobo jungles near rail yards featured communal pots where everyone contributed something. A potato from one person, an onion from another, maybe some meat scraps from a third. The resulting stew fed everyone. Families adapted this principle at home. Mothers kept a pot on the back of the stove, adding vegetables as they came available, stretching with water or milk. Leftover meat got diced and added. Stale bread thickened the broth. Salt, pepper, and maybe some herbs masked any questionable flavors. The stew changed daily but never emptied completely. New ingredients joined the old in an endless cycle. Some families called it perpetual stew or garbage soup, though it was far from garbage to hungry bellies. The tradition taught children that wasting food was sinful when others went hungry. Church suppers featured similar stone soup meals where everyone brought one ingredient. These communal meals built community while ensuring everyone ate. Modern food safety might question the practice, but it kept countless families fed when individual resources couldn't. Corn chowder. When fresh corn was past prime or frozen corn was on sale, families made chowder that lasted for days. The base was simple: potatoes, onions, and corn in milk or cream. In the 1950s, frozen corn cost about 15 cents per package, potatoes were 15 cents for 5 pounds, and milk was 20 cents per quart. For under 60 cents, a pot of chowder fed 6 people twice. Mothers started by rendering salt pork or bacon, using the fat to cook onions and celery. Diced potatoes went in with water or stock, simmering until tender. Corn and milk were added last to prevent curdling. Some families added canned creamed corn for extra body. The chowder thickened naturally from the potato starch. Crackers or cornbread accompanied it, soaking up the creamy broth. New England families might add fish when available. Midwest families used ham bones for flavor. The soup improved overnight, flavors melding together. During corn season, families bought bushels of past prime ears cheaply, cutting off kernels to freeze for winter chowders. This economical soup provided comfort on cold nights when heating oil was expensive and warm food meant survival. Potatoes and hot dogs, skillet. When payday was still days away, this combination filled stomachs cheaply. Hot dogs weren't gourmet sausages, but the cheapest protein available, about 20 cents per pound in the 1950s. Combined with potatoes at 15 cents for 5 pounds and onions at 5 cents per pound, the whole skillet cost under 50 cents. Mothers sliced hot dogs into coins and potatoes into chunks, frying everything together with onions until crispy and golden. Some added bell peppers or cabbage if available. The hot dog fat flavored the potatoes, creating a satisfying one-pan meal. Ketchup or mustard on the side completed it. Kids loved this dinner, not knowing it represented stretched budgets. The leftovers made great hash for breakfast. Some families called it poor man's dinner or end-of-the-month special. The dish appeared in community cookbooks under various names, always emphasizing economy. During the 1970s recession, this returned to many tables. The ingredients might have been humble, but the skillet delivered comfort and fullness when fancier foods weren't possible. Modern foodies might scoff, but this simple combination kept families going through tough times. Sauerkraut with sausage and potatoes. Fermented cabbage was free if you made it yourself, just cabbage and salt transformed by time. Store-bought sauerkraut cost about 10 cents per can in the 1940s. Combined with the cheapest sausage available in potatoes, this German-inspired dish filled bellies through long winters. A pound of sausage was 30 cents, 5 pounds of potatoes was 15 cents, and sauerkraut was 10 cents, under 60 cents total, to generously feed 6. The sauerkraut provided probiotics before anyone knew that term, keeping families healthy when fresh vegetables weren't available. Mothers would brown sliced sausage, add chunked potatoes and drained sauerkraut, then simmer everything together. The sausage fat coated the potatoes while the sauerkraut added tangy flavor. Some families added apples for sweetness or caraway seeds for depth. The dish reheated endlessly without losing quality. German and Polish immigrants brought this tradition to America, where it spread during hard times. Pennsylvania Dutch families ate this weekly. Midwest families adapted it with whatever sausage was cheapest. The fermented cabbage lasted months without refrigeration, making it perfect winter insurance against hunger. Salt cod fish cakes. Before refrigeration, salt cod was the only fish available inland during winter. This preserved fish required soaking to remove salt, but then provided cheap protein. A pound of salt cod cost about 20 cents in the 1930s and expanded significantly when soaked. Mixed with mashed potatoes and formed into cakes, then fried crispy, 1 pound of fish could make dozens of fish cakes. Families soaked the cod overnight, changing water several times. The fish was then flaked and mixed with leftover mashed potatoes, onions, and sometimes an egg. Formed into patties and fried in whatever fat was available, they emerged golden and crispy outside, creamy inside. Served with coleslaw or pickled beets, they made a complete meal. New England families ate these every Friday. Maritime communities perfected countless variations. The fish cakes could be made ahead and reheated, or eaten cold in sandwiches. During Lent, when Catholics abstained from meat, salt cod became essential. The fish provided protein comparable to meat at a fraction of the cost. Modern fresh fish is convenient, but salt cod fish cakes remain comfort food for those who remember harder times. Vegetable barley soup. Barley was the forgotten grain that could transform vegetable scraps into hearty soup. A pound of pearl barley cost about 12 cents in the 1940s and expanded to 3 times its volume when cooked. Combined with whatever vegetables were cheap or left over, it created filling soup that stuck to ribs through cold days. Mothers saved vegetable trimmings all week, carrot tops, celery leaves, onion ends, storing them for soup day. These scraps simmered into flavorful broth. Barley went in early, needing an hour to become tender. Diced vegetables were added based on cooking time. The barley released starch, thickening the soup naturally. A bay leaf and some pepper were the only seasonings needed. The soup improved daily as flavors melded. Jewish families made mushroom barley soup for Sabbath. Scottish families added lamb bones when available. The grain provided complete nutrition when meat was impossible. Leftover soup could be thinned for another meal or thickened with potatoes. During rationing, barley wasn't restricted like wheat, making it valuable. That pot of barley soup represented resourcefulness and resilience, turning humble ingredients into nourishment. Potato pancakes. When potatoes were the only vegetable left in the root cellar, creative mothers transformed them into special dinners. Shredded potatoes mixed with a little flour and egg, if available, fried into crispy pancakes that felt like a treat. Potatoes cost almost nothing, 15 cents for 5 pounds in the 1950s. 1 egg was 3 cents, flour was 5 cents per pound. The whole meal cost under 25 cents. Mothers grated potatoes by hand, squeezing out excess moisture. Mixed with grated onion, an egg, and just enough flour to bind, the batter was dropped into hot fat. The pancakes emerged lacy and golden, crispy outside and creamy inside. Served with applesauce, sour cream, or just salt, they made a satisfying dinner. German families called them Kartoffelpuffer and ate them year-round. The leftover batter could be refrigerated and fried fresh the next day. Some families added leftover mashed potatoes to the mix. These pancakes proved that simple ingredients, properly prepared, could bring joy to the table even during hardship. Leftover hash. Nothing went to waste when wasting food meant going hungry. Sunday's roast beef, Wednesday's boiled potatoes, and Friday's vegetables all met in Saturday's hash. This wasn't a specific recipe, but a philosophy. Everything edible got diced, fried, and transformed into something new. The key was the crusty bottom that formed when the hash cooked undisturbed in a hot skillet. Mothers kept a hash bowl in the icebox, adding leftovers throughout the week. Meat got diced small. Potatoes were crucial for binding. Onions added flavor. Everything went into a hot skillet with bacon fat or butter. Patient cooking created the prized crust. Topped with a fried egg, if available, hash made a complete meal from fragments. Diners and lunch counters perfected hash, serving it cheap to workers. Red flannel hash added beets for color. Corned beef hash became so popular it was eventually canned. But the home version, different every time, taught families that yesterday's leftovers could become today's feast. The practice disappeared with prosperity, but those who lived through hard times never forgot that leftover hash could taste better than the original meals. Beef and barley stew. When the butcher had soup bones or tough cuts nobody else wanted, smart shoppers knew these could become rich stew with time and patience. Soup bones were often free in the 1930s, given to regular customers who asked. A handful of barley, some root vegetables, and day-long simmering transformed these scraps into hearty stew. The bones went into cold water, slowly brought to a simmer, to extract maximum flavor. After hours, the broth was rich and the meat tender enough to shred. Barley added substance, vegetables added nutrition. The stew cooked itself while mothers worked, needing only occasional stirring. One pot lasted days, getting thicker and richer with reheating. Farm families made this after butchering, using cuts too tough for other purposes. City families befriended butchers who saved bones. The marrow from the bones provided richness money couldn't buy. Some families sucked the marrow from bones as a treat. This stew represented the alchemy of poverty cooking, transforming the unwanted into the unforgettable through knowledge and effort. Turkey carcass soup. After Thanksgiving or Christmas, the turkey carcass became as valuable as the original meal. That picked-over frame, simmered long enough, yielded rich broth and bits of meat that could feed a family for days. Nothing was wasted. The bones, skin, and scraps all went into the pot. In the 1940s, when a whole turkey was a rare extravagance costing several dollars, the carcass soup extended that investment. The frame simmered all day with celery leaves, onion ends, and carrot peelings. After straining, the broth was liquid gold. Bits of picked meat returned to the pot with rice or noodles and whatever vegetables were available. The soup seemed endless. Add water and vegetables to stretch it further. Some families got a full week of meals from one turkey carcass. The tradition taught gratitude for abundance and responsibility not to waste. Even wealthy families made carcass soup, remembering leaner times. The soup tasted of celebration and memory, connecting holiday feast with everyday sustenance. Modern rotisserie chickens can't produce the same rich broth that came from those long-simmered turkey bones. Fried cornmeal mush. Yesterday's breakfast became tonight's dinner through creative transformation. Cornmeal mush, just cornmeal cooked in water with salt, was poured into a loaf pan and chilled until firm. Sliced and fried until crispy, it became a completely different meal. Cornmeal cost about 5 cents per pound in the 1930s, making this one of the cheapest dinners possible. The cold mush sliced cleanly, then went into hot fat until golden and crispy outside while creamy inside. Served with syrup, apple butter, or gravy, it filled stomachs for pennies. Southern families called it fried grits. Italian families called it polenta. But the principle was the same. Yesterday's porridge became today's dinner. Some families added cheese or herbs to the mush before chilling. Others served it with tomato sauce or beans. The versatility made it perfect for using whatever condiments were available. This practice of transforming breakfast into dinner showed the creativity poverty demanded. Nothing was single-purpose when feeding a family required constant innovation. That humble pan of fried mush represented resilience and the refusal to go hungry. Thanks for joining us on this trip down memory lane, exploring these 25 winter survival meals. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like and share it with a friend. And don't forget to subscribe.